But, yeah, let's dive into the show. The breaking news, Tommy John set for Tony Gonsolin, the Catman, likely out for all of 2024. September 1st, undergoes a knife. Dr. Neil Elatrash. That's the guy you want to go to. Doug, give us some immediate reactions here.
It's unfortunate. It felt like it was a formality. We knew it was coming. Now, the only important thing is him getting healthy, him crushing that rehab and getting back out there on the mountain. Yeah, like we talked about in the last few episodes, it really was commendable when you looked at the Dodgers situation where they were dealing with so many injuries. They needed someone to take the ball and eat innings. And unfortunately, I think you have to talk about the split change. And when your best pitch is a pitch that really takes its toll on your arm, it feels like this is inevitable. Like the GM of the Oakland A's, Brad Pitt, likes to say, there's two types of pitchers. There's pitchers that have had Tommy John and pitchers that are going to have Tommy John. And
it was coming.
In the velo revolution that we're in, it's just a part of the game. It's unfortunate. And I think this year, kind of one of the other factors that I've been monitoring this entire season is, look, when you have the incentives that he had in his contract, he made himself an extra $2 million with how many games he's pitched. So, yeah, he was trying to get out there to make himself a bag to help his team win. But for him to be effective, we need to see a 95, 96 mile per hour fastball occasionally. He's a guy that really can have diminished stuff and go out there and help his team win. So, yeah, it's going to be a long process, but I think, like you mentioned, Dr. Neil Elatrach, he's the best in the business, and if anyone can get him back on the mound, it's going to be him. And I think he still could be an asset for this team. I said in the last show, it almost feels like when you look at the talent coming out, the Sheehan's, the Groves, even the Gavin Stones, who has looked a lot better, Bobby Miller, it does feel like he could be a guy that's almost a Ross Stripling where he's solid, but does he have a role for this team? Do you look to trade him and maybe even opportunity for another team that needs pitching?
Yeah. So I'm going to focus a little bit on the Gonsolin situation because we know we've heard about it for honestly most of the season. Like he's not bouncing back well. Something isn't right. Dave Roberts had talked off and on about it. They've been, as they usually do, real close to the vest, kind of gatekeepery about their news and notes. I mean, essentially you assume they knew this yesterday in Boston. But they're like, Dave did Dave things. He's not going to really throw the news out there for some reason. I guess they wanted to save it for today at home. But you wonder, how bad was this injury? How much could it have hurt him more for the future? Like, did he hurt himself more trying to pitch through this? Or did he know, were they being, cool about the idea of getting him to that 20 start mark, get him that money, knowing that next year is kind of a wash. So there's some questions. I'm sure we're going to get some answers out of it. Not very many. The Dodgers don't give out that much information, but either way, I mean, we like Tony. Tony's is a good option. He's a good dude, and it's a tough situation for him. But you hope that they're nipping this in the bud at the right time, and he can come back 2025 and be stronger than ever. Because we've seen this guy for the greater part of his career be dominant. This year was not so much, and it became pretty damn obvious that there was something wrong with the Catman.
Exactly, Clinton. Last year we saw when Walker Buehler was out there on the mound. The velo was down, the command was down. It's not just the velo, it's also the velo plus the command, and you saw him struggle in both those departments. And I think for Tony Gonsolin, he's someone that he realizes the process of, okay, I'm someone who's a converted outfielder. I'm someone that really has realized the dream of being a big league all-star. And look, the reality, Clint, is he's not a bad pitcher. He's a pitcher that was pitching through an injury. And at full strength, I still think he's a number 4 or number 5 starter in Major League Baseball. And guess what, kids at home? That is accomplishment. That is the dream. That is
rotations
exceeding expectations. So, yeah, I mean, for people to say he's trash, he's this and that, look, I mean, he's someone, he's going to go to the vet. His 9 lives are up, and he's got to fix that arm and get back to it. And I think the Cat Daddy is going to be just fine. I think for this year, for this team, it's really interesting. I think you mentioned, I want to kind of circle back to what you said about did he hurt his arm? Now, Dave was pretty adamant. I was at that game in the press conference, and he said, look, the reason why we kept giving the ball and running him out there is we felt like it would not increase the risk of injury, would not further damage his arm. And you would have to believe that they probably knew that going in, but it also felt like, look, if I'm a pitcher out there and you look at the state of Major League Baseball, it almost feels like an inevitability. So might as well go out there until the wheels fall off, because it's not like he was in line for another contract, right? He just signed that extension. He's still under team control for multiple seasons. I don't think I see there's a narrative out there saying, oh, the Dodgers, they should have traded Tony Gonsolin, right? Well, look, here's the thing. This Dodgers organization, they're in the business of making trades. Part of their model for success is developing prospects, not only to use them as key contributors, but also as trade chips. Yep. And you don't want to sell off those damaged goods, right? You don't want to sell that car that's a lemon, right, and have it come back to you. So I think for them in this situation, they realize this probably was something. And look, if anything, this organization, they've shown patience. They know the deal. Dustin May, Walker Buehler. I mean, there's so many examples that, hey, we can get you back on track. It's just only a matter of time. But it's just unfortunate because he just can't stay out there on the mound. Maybe this will be the final thing where he's still pretty young, where if he comes back, he can still have 3-4 solid years and still make a career out of this.
He still has an opportunity to go out there and get himself his next big contract. The final big contract maybe of his year, but or of his career, but he has that opportunity. You mentioned the Dodgers kind of knowing something. I think in hindsight, we could look at the structure of that contract he signed or the contract they agreed to in the offseason, where it was kind of tiered. There was incentives. It was, based on how much he was going to pitch. They knew there was something a little off about that arm because, hey, he hadn't undergone Tommy John surgery yet, and you knew that's coming up at some point. I also have to note, very importantly, about 15 minutes before the show, I sent Noah a Slack over here, and I said, I got $1 on Doug saying something about Gonsolin and 9 lives. So nailed it. I know Doug McCain.
The great Catsby. Look, hey, I actually hate myself, and I'm not afraid to admit this, but you guys know I said that it felt like at some point this season we would see Tony Gonsolin and Dr. Neil Elitroch in a tweet.
This is a thing.
I felt like I manifested this, but look, I mean, when you watch these guys on a daily basis, you don't go from pretty solid to bad overnight. It usually is because of something physical, and that's why I wasn't too hard on Tony Gonsolin. That's why I felt like, look, this was more something physical than this guy, I mean, not sequencing pitches correctly or anything like that. And look, the reality is his money pitch is one that takes its toll on your arm. So, yeah, he's going to be fine. I think, too, like clarity-wise, Clint, I mean, the fact that this is occurring now and you're not kicking the can down the road and saying, oh, we're going to do treatment and PRP and this and that, I think it puts him in a good spot to say, okay, let's further evaluate some of these guys. Ryan Pepio has looked good. Gavin Stone had his best appearance of the year. Even Michael Grove, we don't talk about that often, out of the bullpen as in a piggyback situation, he could be an option as well. So I think just giving us some clarity as to how this rotation and this bullpen picture is going to shake out for the postseason, I think it helps them from that standpoint. But yeah, it's something that it just feels like, can this guy go wire to wire and finish the season at full strength? I don't know if we're ever going to see it.
I don't know if we're going to see that. Like, looking at this with the Michelada half full, it doesn't really affect this season because we all kind of saw the writing on the wall. Like, this guy is not going to be a postseason rotation starter. Bobby Miller essentially leapfrogged him in the rotation, the top 4 of the rotation there. So barring injury, of course, so knock on desk there. So it doesn't affect the season too much. It does suck, but again, at least it's happening now, and it's not like the Shohei situation where that's the can's getting pushed, kicked down the road or whatever. Which I guess we haven't even talked about the Shohei injury, but I think you did a dugout about that. So watch that on the YouTube. Subscribe while you're there. Dodgers Nation TV. Cody, what are the fine people saying in the audience? And let me know where I'm looking.
A lot of people, you're still looking at
Oh, hi.
A lot of people are talking about how they should have traded Gonsolin while his value is still high.
Yeah.
A lot of people are saying, hoping that Gonsolin gets healthy and everything. And then I think I saw a question about who kind of replaces or gets his spot in the rotation. I guess you guys kind of semi-answer that too as well.
Yeah, I mean, that's definitely going to be postseason-wise. And we've already talked a lot about the postseason rotation of late, but that's Bobby Miller. And in the immediate, you're probably going to see Ryan Pepio, who I read something. I forgot who. I don't know who to attribute it to. I forgot who said it, but I think he's back in Arizona right now. Like, they're working on either some sort of pitch or whatever it is, because he's still getting used to that. His off speed, his secondary stuff right now. But that's all we got to say about it. More reactions, more news will be dropping from the team. Dave Roberts, he's doing his daily meeting with the media. It should be pretty much wrapped up now, so we'll find out more. But in the interim, let's move on. Let's talk.